Welcome to English Through Great Stories. Today's story is called The Rise of YouTube, How the Internet Changed Entertainment. Sit comfortably, take a breath, and let the story begin. Imagine a teenager. It is late at night, perhaps 11, perhaps midnight. The house is quiet. The rest of the family is asleep, but she is sitting in front of a computer screen, her face lit by that pale bluish glow that millions of people around the world know well. She is not doing homework. She is not reading a book. She is watching a video. A video made by a stranger, someone she has never met, someone who lives thousands of miles away. And yet, as she watches, she feels something she rarely feels at school or at parties or in any of the places where she is supposed to belong. She feels understood. The person on the screen is talking about loneliness, about feeling different, about not fitting in. And this girl, this ordinary teenager in her ordinary bedroom, is crying. Not from sadness, but from relief, because for the first time in a very long time, she knows she is not alone. This is the power of YouTube. Not just the technology, not just the business, but the human connection, raw, unfiltered and real, that a website made possible, beginning in the year 2005. This is the story of how three young men with a camera, a dream, and a very fast internet connection changed the world forever. Chapter 1: A Garage and a Dream. Every great story begins somewhere small. YouTube began in a garage, or more precisely, in the offices above a garage, a modest space in San Mateo, California, belonging to a company that was still very young, very hungry, and very ambitious. The year was 2004. Three friends were sitting together after a dinner party, and they had a problem. They had been trying to share videos online, videos of the party itself, videos of friends, of funny moments, and they could not do it easily. The internet existed, of course, email existed, but there was no simple, universal place where you could upload a video and share it with the world. The three friends were Chad Hurley, Steve Chen, and Jawed Karim. They had all worked together at PayPal, the online payment company that had itself been a revolutionary idea just a few years earlier. They were technically brilliant, they were entrepreneurial, and they had, perhaps most importantly, the ability to see a gap in the world and say, "We can fill that." So they began to build. They registered the domain name youtube.com on the 14th of February 2005, Valentine's Day. Whether this was intentional or accidental, nobody quite remembers. But there is something appropriate about it. A website built on the idea of sharing, of showing the world who you are and what you love. Born on the day we celebrate love itself. In those early months, the three founders worked long hours, drinking coffee, debugging code, and asking themselves one simple question. What if anyone, anywhere, could share a video with everyone? It seems like an obvious idea now, but in 2005, it was genuinely radical. Chapter 2: The First Upload. On the 23rd of April 2005, Jawed Karim uploaded the very first video to YouTube. It was called Me at the Zoo. It was 18 seconds long. Jawed stood in front of the elephant enclosure at the San Diego Zoo. He spoke in a calm, slightly awkward voice. He said that the elephants were cool, that they had very long trunks, and that was essentially the end of the video. It was not spectacular, it was not cinematic. There was no dramatic music, no clever editing, no scripted narration. It was simply a young man with a camera talking about elephants. And yet that 18-second clip carried within it the seed of something extraordinary, because what it demonstrated was this: anyone could do it. You did not need a television studio. You did not need a film degree. You did not need money or connections or permission from anyone. You just needed something to say and a camera. In the weeks and months that followed, the site grew slowly, then faster, then at a speed that surprised even its creators. People uploaded home videos, travel clips, cooking experiments, comedy sketches. The early YouTube felt like a digital attic, full of strange, wonderful, and deeply human things. By the summer of 2005, the site was receiving around 3 million video views per day. By the end of that year, the number had grown to 50 million. The world had found its video platform, and it was not going to let go. Chapter 3: Going Viral. If YouTube had a childhood, it was defined by laughter, and by a very specific kind of joy. The joy of discovering something absurd, something unexpected, and sharing it immediately with everyone you know. In those first years, the videos that captured the world's imagination were not polished productions. They were accidents of charm, spontaneity, and human honesty. There was Charlie Bit My Finger, uploaded in 2007 by a British father named Howard Davies Carr. In the clip, a baby named Charlie bites the finger of his older brother Harry, who cries out in pain and then, almost immediately, bursts into giggles. It is 45 seconds long. It is perfectly, completely, irresistibly human. At its peak, it was the most watched video on YouTube. Eventually, it accumulated nearly 900 million views. There was the Numa Numa video, in which a young American named Gary Brolsma sat at his computer, lip-syncing with enormous energy and completely uninhibited joy to a Romanian pop song. He was not performing for anyone in particular, he was simply happy, and the world watched, and the world smiled, and the world shared. There was the evolution of dance video, and dramatic chipmunk, and countless other clips that were passed from friend to friend, from email to email, from phone to phone in that era before social media made sharing automatic and instant. These videos taught the internet something important. They showed that entertainment did not have to be expensive. It did not have to be perfect. It just had to be real. It just had to make you feel something. Laughter, surprise, wonder, warmth. And the simpler and more honest it was, the more powerfully it connected. The word viral entered the common vocabulary during this period. We borrowed it from biology, the idea of something spreading from person to person, replicating itself, growing beyond anyone's control. A viral video was one that spread not because a corporation pushed it, but because ordinary people loved it enough to share it. This was a new kind of power, and it belonged for the first time not to studios or networks or media executives. It belonged to everyone. Chapter 4: The Google Deal. By the autumn of 2006, YouTube was no longer just a website. It was a phenomenon. It was a cultural force. It was also, in purely practical terms, extremely expensive to run. Storing and delivering millions of videos required enormous computer service, enormous bandwidth, and enormous amounts of electricity. The founders were burning through money at a rate that made investors nervous. They needed either to find a way to generate serious revenue or to find a very powerful partner. The partner arrived in the form of Google. Google had tried to build its own video platform, Google Video, but it had struggled to compete with YouTube's explosive growth. The founders of Google, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, understood something very clearly. If you cannot beat them, and if you have enough money, you buy them. On the 9th of October 2006, just 18 months after YouTube had launched, Google announced that it would acquire the company for $1.65 billion in stock. Jawed Karim, Chad Hurley and Steve Chen, three men who had built the site from scratch in a garage over little more than a year, were suddenly spectacularly wealthy. The deal shocked the business world. $1.65 billion for a company that was barely a year and a half old, a company that had never turned a profit, a company whose entire library consisted of videos people had uploaded for free. But Google saw what others did not. They saw that YouTube was not just a collection of videos. It was a community. It was a habit. It was something people returned to again and again because it was endlessly surprising, endlessly human, and endlessly new. And communities, once built, are extraordinarily valuable. Under Google's ownership, YouTube gained resources, stability, and scale. The servers stopped crashing. The site became faster, more reliable, more global. And it began to think seriously about what it could become, not just today, but in the years and decades ahead. Chapter 5. The Rise of the Creators. Here is a word that did not exist in its modern sense 20 years ago. Creator. Not an artist, not a filmmaker, not a broadcaster. A creator. Someone who makes content for the internet, specifically for platforms like YouTube, and who builds an audience through consistency, personality, and trust. The creator economy is one of the defining economic and cultural phenomena of the 21st century, and YouTube built it. In 2007, YouTube launched the Partner Program, initially for a small group of selected channels. By 2012, it had opened the program to anyone who met basic eligibility requirements. The idea was simple and transformative. If you make videos that people watch, you will receive a share of the advertising revenue those videos generate. For the first time in history, ordinary people could make a living, in some cases an extraordinary living, simply by talking to a camera in their bedroom. The first generation of YouTube stars emerged in this period, and they were unlike any celebrities the world had seen before. They were not discovered by agents or talent scouts. They were not groomed by studios or trained by professionals. They were just themselves, passionate, unpolished, and genuine, and their audiences loved them precisely for that. PewDiePie, the Swedish gamer Felix Killberg, began uploading videos of himself playing video games in 2010. He was funny, irreverent, and completely unafraid of being silly. He spoke directly to his audience, as if they were friends sitting in the same room. By 2013, he had become the most subscribed channel on YouTube. At his peak, he had more than 110 million subscribers. He had built an empire from a webcam and a gaming chair. Michelle Phan was a young Vietnamese-American woman who began uploading makeup tutorials in 2007. She had no formal training, no industry connections, and no budget for professional lighting. What she had was talent, warmth, and the ability to make every viewer feel as though they were sitting beside a knowledgeable, encouraging friend. She built a career, then a beauty brand, then a business valued at millions of dollars. She proved that expertise shared generously is one of the most powerful currencies in the digital world. Casey Neistat was a filmmaker who turned the daily vlog into an art form. Every day for more than 500 days, he released a new video documenting his life in New York City. Not just what happened, but how it felt. His editing was cinematic. His storytelling was emotional. He showed that YouTube was not merely a platform for funny clips. It was a canvas for genuine artistry. And then there was MrBeast. Jimmy Donaldson from North Carolina began making YouTube videos at the age of 13. He was obsessed, not with fame, not with money, but with understanding how YouTube worked. He studied algorithms, analyzed other channels, and experimented relentlessly. As his audience grew, so did the scale of his videos. He planted 20 million trees. He gave away islands. He fed millions of people through his MrBeast Burger and Feastables businesses. He turned YouTube into a platform for philanthropy at a scale that once required corporations or governments. By the early 2020s, he was arguably the most powerful independent creator on Earth. These were not outliers. They were the leading edge of a movement. By 2022, more than 50 million people around the world identified themselves as content creators. YouTube had created not just a platform, it had created a profession. Chapter 6. YouTube changes music. In 2008, a talent manager named Scooter Braun was searching the internet for a young singer from Atlanta he had heard about. His search led him by accident to a different video entirely, a clip of a 12-year-old boy from Stratford, Ontario, Canada, singing a cover of Neo's song So Sick in his living room. The boy's name was Justin Bieber. Braun reached out to Bieber's mother. He flew the boy to Atlanta to meet with the singer Usher. Within months, Justin Bieber had a record deal. Within a year, he was a global phenomenon. Within 2 years, he was one of the most famous human beings on the planet. None of it would have happened without YouTube. Because in the old world, the world of record labels and radio stations and gatekeepers, a 12-year-old from a small Canadian town would never have been heard. But YouTube had no gatekeepers. YouTube was open to everyone. And sometimes, when talent is extraordinary enough, open access is all it takes. Bieber's story was remarkable, but it was not unique. YouTube changed the music industry fundamentally and in multiple directions at once. In 2012, a South Korean rapper named Park Jae-sang, known to the world as Psy, released a music video for a song called Gangnam Style. The video was colorful, absurd, energetic, and impossible to ignore. It spread across the internet with the speed of wildfire. Within months, it had become the first YouTube video to reach 1 billion views, then 2 billion, then 3 billion. Gangnam Style demonstrated something that the music industry had not fully understood, that YouTube was a global stage with no borders. A song could travel from Seoul to Sydney to Sao Paulo overnight, without a single radio play, without a single dollar spent on traditional promotion. The audience decided what was popular, and the audience's reach was planetary. For established artists, YouTube became an essential part of their marketing strategy. For independent musicians, it became something even more valuable. A direct line to listeners with no record label, no radio station, and no middleman required. Singers, guitarists, pianists, producers all found audiences through the platform, and some of them turned those audiences into careers. YouTube also created new formats for music content. Channel after channel built enormous audiences around music reaction videos, music theory breakdowns, cover songs, and original compositions. Music on the internet was no longer a product to be consumed passively. It was a conversation, and YouTube was the room in which that conversation took place. Chapter 7. More than entertainment, news, education, and social change. There is a temptation to think of YouTube as purely an entertainment platform, a place for funny videos, music, and gaming. But that would be to miss a great deal of what YouTube has actually done in the world. Consider education. Before YouTube, if you wanted to learn something, how to solve a quadratic equation, how to speak French, how to repair a bicycle, you had limited options. You could buy a book, you could take a class, you could find someone patient enough to teach you in person. All of these options required either money or time or proximity to someone who knew what you needed to know. YouTube changed that entirely. In 2006, a man named Sal Khan began recording short mathematics lessons and uploading them for his cousins who lived far away and needed academic support. He spoke clearly, drew diagrams, and explained ideas step by step. His cousins found the videos helpful. Then other people found them helpful. Then millions of people found them helpful. Khan Academy was born, a free, comprehensive educational resource that has since taught everything from algebra to economics to biology to art history. Today, Khan Academy reaches more than 130 million students in over 50 languages. All of it free, all of it available to anyone with an internet connection. TED Talks found their true global audience on YouTube. Lectures from the world's greatest universities, available freely and instantly. Documentaries on climate change, on history, on human psychology, on the cosmos. Tutorials on every conceivable skill, from woodworking to watercolor painting to writing code. YouTube became the largest free library of human knowledge and creativity that has ever existed. And then there is news. In the early days of YouTube, few people imagined it as a news platform, but events have a way of finding the most available camera. When protests broke out in Egypt during the Arab Spring, in Hong Kong, in Minneapolis after the death of George Floyd, the footage that reached the world first was not shot by professional journalists. It was shot by people with smartphones and uploaded to YouTube within minutes. The platform became a primary source of eyewitness testimony, of unmediated reality, of history as it was actually happening. This was not without complications. YouTube also became a space where misinformation could spread rapidly, where conspiracy theories found audiences, where extremism could be amplified. The company has wrestled with these challenges continually, adjusting its policies, improving its moderation, and trying to balance freedom of expression with responsibility to truth. It is a balance that has not always been achieved, and the debate continues today. But the power of YouTube as a force for education, awareness, and social connection has been undeniable. Social movements found new voices on the platform. Activists built coalitions across continents. Marginalized communities, people who had never seen themselves represented in mainstream media, created their own channels, told their own stories, and found their own audiences. For the first time, the story of humanity was being told not by a small group of editors and producers, but by humanity itself. Chapter 8: The Creator Economy and the New Definition of Fame. Fame in the 20th century was a scarce and carefully managed resource. It was controlled by studios and record labels and television networks. institutions with the power to decide who the public would see and who it would not. To be famous, you needed to be chosen, and to be chosen, you needed to impress the right people in the right rooms. YouTube dismantled that system, not quickly and not completely, but profoundly. The definition of fame shifted. A person could have 10 million subscribers, a larger audience than most television programs, and still be unknown to the generation that watched those programs. Parents would look at their children's screens in confusion, seeing faces they had never encountered. And their children would look back with equal confusion, because to them, these creators were not obscure internet personalities. They were the most important voices in the world. This generational divide in fame is one of the most fascinating cultural phenomena of the early 21st century. It reflects a deeper truth that the internet did not simply add a new entertainment channel. It created an entirely parallel culture, with its own stars, its own language, its own aesthetics, and its own economy. By the end of the 2010s, the creator economy, the ecosystem of income generated by individual creators through advertising, sponsorships, memberships, and live events, was estimated to be worth more than $100 billion globally. That number has only grown since. Young people across the world began to dream of becoming YouTubers the way previous generations dreamed of becoming rock stars or film actors. Surveys consistently found that content creator or YouTuber ranked among the most aspirational careers for children in the United States, the United Kingdom, China, South Korea, and many other countries. This was not naive. For many creators, YouTube has delivered on its promise. It has provided income, independence, creative fulfillment, and communities of genuine depth and loyalty. The relationship between a creator and their audience is unlike almost any other in entertainment. It is personal, it is sustained, it is built on years of watching, listening, and trusting. When a creator speaks, their audience does not hear an advertisement. They hear a friend. But the creator economy has its shadows too. The pressure to produce content constantly, to satisfy algorithms that reward frequency and engagement, has taken a serious psychological toll on many creators. Burnout is common. The line between public persona and private self becomes dangerously blurred. A single controversial video can unravel years of careful reputation building. The same platform that made them famous can, at any moment, deprioritize their content, change its policies, or simply change the way its algorithm rewards certain types of videos. YouTube giveth, and YouTube sometimes taketh away. The creators who have thrived are those who understood this uncertainty and who built their identity and their business on something deeper than any single platform. Chapter 9: The Future of Digital Entertainment. It is easy to speak of YouTube's past. It is harder and more interesting to speak of its future. By 2023, YouTube was the second most visited website in the world, after Google. More than 500 hours of video were uploaded to the platform every single minute. More than 2 billion logged-in users visited the site every month. YouTube Shorts, the platform's response to TikTok's short-form video format, was generating 50 billion views per day. The platform's revenues, mostly from advertising, exceeded $30 billion annually. And yet, YouTube faces challenges that would have been unimaginable to its founders in their garage in 2005. The competition is fierce and fast-moving. TikTok has captured the attention of a younger generation with its algorithmic discovery engine, a system that learns with remarkable speed and precision exactly what each individual user wants to watch and delivers it without any effort required. Netflix, Disney+, Amazon Prime, and Apple TV compete for the same hours in the day. Podcasts, streaming music, video games, and social media all compete for human attention, the single most valuable and finite resource in the digital economy. Artificial intelligence is reshaping the landscape in ways that nobody fully understands yet. AI can now generate videos from text descriptions. It can clone voices and faces. It can write scripts, compose music, and edit footage in seconds. This raises profound questions about what it means to create, what it means to perform, and what audiences will value in a world where content can be produced infinitely and instantaneously. And there are deeper questions too. Questions about the impact of constant screen time on mental health. Questions about the concentration of power in a few enormous technology companies. Questions about whose stories get told and whose get buried by an algorithm that rewards familiarity over challenge, sensation over substance. These are not easy questions. They do not have simple answers. But they are the questions that will define the next chapter of this story, a chapter that is still being written by creators and viewers and engineers and policymakers and artists all around the world. What seems certain is this: the fundamental human desire that YouTube tapped into in 2005, the desire to share, to be seen, to connect, to tell stories, has not diminished. If anything, it has grown stronger. In a world that can feel large and impersonal and overwhelming, people still reach for their cameras, still press record, still look into the lens and say, "Here I am. This is what I think. This is what I feel. This is what I love." And somewhere in a bedroom on the other side of the world, someone watches and feels less alone. Conclusion: the screen and the story. We began with a girl, a teenager, alone in her bedroom, watching a video in the dark, crying, not from sadness, but from the extraordinary relief of recognition. The feeling of being known by a stranger. The feeling of mattering to someone you have never met. That moment, ordinary, unremarkable, invisible to the world, is the truest measure of what YouTube has achieved. Not the billion-dollar acquisition, not the record-breaking view counts, not the celebrity creators or the advertising revenues, but that quiet moment of human connection, multiplied by billions, repeated every day, in every country, in every language, across every conceivable divide of culture and distance and experience. YouTube did not invent storytelling. Human beings have told stories since before we had words, through fire and paint and song and gesture. The need to say, "Here is what I know. Here is what I have seen. Here is who I am," is as old as consciousness itself. What YouTube did was remove the barriers, the financial barriers, the geographical barriers, the institutional barriers. It said to every person on earth, "You have a voice, you have a story, and if you have the courage to share it, there is an audience waiting." That is a radical and beautiful idea. It has been imperfectly executed, as all radical ideas are. It has created problems alongside its gifts. It has been misused and commercialized and complicated in ways that its founders could not have anticipated on that Valentine's Day in 2005. But it has also given the world something extraordinary. It has given ordinary people extraordinary platforms. It has given the knowledgeable a way to teach, and the lonely a way to connect, and the creative a way to create, and the curious a way to learn without asking permission from anyone. The teenager in the bedroom will grow up. She will go on to make her own videos, perhaps, or she will become a doctor, inspired by a medical channel she discovered at 3 in the morning. Or she will learn a language, or master a skill, or change her mind about something important because of a video that found her when she needed it most. The story of YouTube is not finished. It is still uploading. It is still buffering at the edges, still finding its resolution. But its central truth is already clear. The world changed when 3 men asked a simple question. What if anyone could share a video with everyone? And the answer, messy, complicated, magnificent, and deeply, irreducibly human, has been playing on screens around the world ever since. Thank you for listening to English Through Great Stories. Until next time, keep watching, keep wondering, and keep learning.